Hello everyone. We will start today's session shortly. Till some more participants join in, could you quickly confirm if I'm audible? You can type a yes in the chat box. Thank you for confirming. Just couple more minutes and we'll start today's session. Thank you. Hello everyone. Good evening and a very warm welcome to today's insightful webinar, which is Prompt Engineering from Basics to Advanced Strategies. We are delighted to have you join us this evening for a session crafted specially for professionals and leaders who are eager to unlock the true power of generative AI and apply it meaningfully in real world business context. So prompt engineering has quickly emerged as one of the most critical skills in this AI era, right? It's like the bridge between human intent and machine intelligence. So in today's session, we will demystify how thoughtfully designed prompts can significantly enhance AI outputs, sharpen decision making, and transform everyday business communication. You will also learn how different prompting techniques influence AI behavior, how to refine prompts for accuracy and for creativity, and how leading organizations are leveraging these prompt engineering to drive productivity, innovation, and efficiency. So, and to guide us through this fascinating topic, we are honored to have with us today Mr. Shyam Venkatesh. He's a visionary technology leader and expert in enterprise AI transformation. So, Mr. Sham is the director of architecture in the fintech industry with over 20 plus years of experience leading high performing technology teams. He's a seasoned professional whose expertise spans across various domains like data science, cloud architecture, AI, ML, automation consulting. In addition, he's highly skilled in Java full stack engineering, microservices, SOA, with CI/CD, having successfully designed and deployed scalable cloud native solutions across complex enterprise environments. Uh, and we'll also have an interactive Q&A session with Mr. Sham towards the end. So feel free to post your questions in the chat box. Before we begin, a quick note on how the session will flow. To ensure we make the most of our time, attendees are in listen-only mode. However, you can send in your questions via the chat or else the Q&A tab. And please remember, today's session is just the beginning. To deepen your knowledge and skills, we encourage you to explore our postgraduate program in artificial intelligence for leaders. It's a 5-month intensive course designed specially for business leaders just like you who wants to leverage AI for strategic decision making and transformational leadership. So without further ado, let's dive in. Over to you, Sha.
Hey Lakshana, thank you for that introduction. Hello everyone. Warm Wishes to all of you, and thank you for joining. So, like Lakshana introduced, my name is Shyam. So I'm going to be, your host for this webinar. So today's topic is a very interesting one, folks. I'll start sharing my screen, right? Uh, can you confirm if you are able to see my screen? Yeah. Are you able to still see that in presentation mode, please? Yeah. Okay. It's great. Great. Thank you. So wonderful. Today, we're talking about prompt engineering and techniques, right? So sometimes we feel, prompt engineering is, too overhyped, right? And these days there is also auto prompting. So does prompt engineering, right, becomes like an obsolete thing, right? Something that we don't have to pay too much of significance, right? I would argue against that. I would say prompt engineering is still a very important aspect, right? And I will tell you why, right? So prompt engineering basically means, you're not just giving any prompts. You're not just doing a Google search, right? You're not doing a Bing search, right? On any of these GPTs and LLM platforms. You're basically crafting your instructions, right? So you're crafting your inputs to the LLM in a way that you can get the most of it and get your task done. Right. Now, let me explain why prompt engineering becomes very important, right? So, folks, I may want to go off video if that's okay. I have some limited bandwidth, so, I'll as well conserve that to be able to do some whiteboarding, right? Now, we today's world, we have all these, GPT-4, right? GPT 4.5. We have Llama. We also have Gemini, right? We have Claude, Anthropic, right? Now, what are all of this, folks? What are all of this? What do we generally call them? Can you please put your thoughts on the chat window? Yep, LLM. Anand says LLM. Wonderful, right? These are called LLM, and LLM is an abbreviation for large language models, right? Now, what is the significance of large here, right? Can you please tell on the chat? Why do you think there is a large in the language model? Yeah, absolutely right. Sandeep says, trained on large set of data. Ravi says huge database has been fed into these models, right? Very, very well said. In fact, if you want to look at the actual numbers, right? I can, okay. I may not be able to share that. In fact, that's okay, right? So what we are saying is the large is because of the parameters, right? Billions of parameters. I don't know about 4.5, but GPT-3, right, had 72 billion parameters, right? And for context, a human brain, right? A human brain will maximum have, about 30 billion parameters, right? In the entire lifetime. Right, so that's for context. So GPT-3 was already double and beyond that. Now we are in GPT 4.5. I don't know the exact numbers. You may look up, right? So that was the number of parameters. Now, what are these parameters, right? So these large language models, they are trained on almost the entire internet, right? Almost the billions of wiki pages, right? Almost, billions and billions of ebooks, right? So it's trained on that. And to train a model with all these different data, right? So you need a lot of compute, right? You need a lot of time. You need a lot of energy or power, right? So that's why training an LLM. right, is only done by capital intensive companies, right? Like the, the Fangs of the world, right? Or the Microsofts, the OpenAIs, right? So only they can train these kind of LLMs, right? And when you train this, what is the model learning? The model is learning general language, right? It's learning the language, it's learning linguistics, how you can maybe quote a scientific text, right? Or how you can summarize a fictional book, right? Or how you can maybe paraphrase something in the art, right? So those are the things, those general language is what these models are being trained on, right? Now this general language is not helpful to us, right? So I can go and ask an LLM, right? Something about robotics, right? I can go and ask about something about a Korean movie, right? Or a Korean Korean movie, right? I can go ask something about geographic diversity in Antarctica, right? You see, I am able to go and ask LLM from diverse domain, right? So it's a diverse domain model, right? So general language or general domain model, right? So that's what these LLMs are, right? But this is of no use because, I see all of you leaders coming from, organizations whose business value is critical, right? You want to probably do maybe financial advisory. You want to do insurance, customer service. You want to do e-retail, something with, let's say, how do you do warehouse, pipelining, right? So how do you do CRM, right? So how do you do, supply chain, right? So you are coming from your own domain and you want to do domain specific stuff, right? You want to do a domain specific using an LLM, right? So there are multiple ways of doing domain specific activities, right? Or domain specific tasks. So one of the way which is quite popular, right, is so let me talk about two ways how you can do domain specific things, right? So if you want to do domain specific task using LLM, right? So the first thing you can do is, maybe a knowledge source, right? So here, generally we do is we take the LLM model, right? Now this LLM model could be open source. You can download it from, let's say, a GitHub repository, from Llama Index, from Hugging Face, or you could buy it from, OpenAI, right? You can, buy subscription for, let's say GPT Turbo 3.5, right? Or GPT 4.0 mini, right? Or something like that. You can take this LLM and you can integrate to your own knowledge source, right? And this knowledge source can be a database, and it can be your wiki pages. It could be let's say a warehouse, right? It could be a huge warehouse, it could be a data lake, anything of that. And the various architectures available to integrate with your source, right? One of the popular architecture is a RAG, right? Which stands for retrieval, augmented generations, right? So you're able to generate using by retrieving from your knowledge source and augmenting what LLM already knows. LLM has general domain knowledge, right? So it has general domain knowledge, and your knowledge source comes with domain specific knowledge, right? So with that, now you want to do, let's say, for your e-commerce company, you have a specific way of addressing your premium customers, right? Now that will come from your knowledge source. right? Your own knowledge source, and you don't have to just worry about general stuff that LLM does, right? So things like that. Now, here you can just give a prompt, a simple prompt. It will look for the information. If not, it will try to go to the knowledge source and try to find it, and it will give more enriched, more domain specific output to the end user, right? So this is where you prompt and you get back the response, right? So this is a very popular way, but the problem with this is it is expensive, right? So this is far too expensive, right? So you need to have a knowledge source. This needs to have some level of feature engineering to be done, right? Some level of data engineering to be done, right? Some pipelines to be built, some integrations to be done, right? So there's a lot of work involved here, and that is expensive, right? So an alternative way to do that is prompting, right? So here we don't have to do any of these RAG, you don't have to hook to your any of your knowledge sources. You take the bare bones LLM, right? Here the onus is on the prompt. The onus is on carefully crafting your prompt in a way that you can get the most out of LLM. It may not still be very much your domain specific. It may not be enriched, as good as what this architecture would do, right? But you can still get the most out of LLM by careful prompting, right? And today's session, we will talk about all the different techniques that you can use to prompt and get your task done from a LLM, right? Now, before I get to the techniques, right, some of theory I may want to throw it out to you, right? And if you are of the inquisitive type and more want to get deeper into the workings of LLMs and stuff, this might kind of intrigue your curiosity. So I want to talk about what is in an LLM, right? So we say it's a model, it gets trained and all, but what typically it is, right? So LLM are inspired by an architecture called transformers. By the way, the GPT, when you say GPT, right, it is it's called generic pre-trained transformer, right? So the word generic is because it is general purpose, right? And it's a pre-trained transformer. Right? That's what GPT is. By the way, what is this transformer, right? So transformers is basically an architecture type, right? So in 2017, right, uh, there was a paper from Google, right? So Google paper uh, actually drafted by Vaswani and other people, Vaswani et al., right? And the topic of the paper is attention is all you need, right? Now, this is a 15-page paper, white paper, which was published, and I strongly encourage all of you to read this, right? So it is not at all technical. It will talk about very, very, fundamentally in English language, how some of the words becomes contextual significant, right? Like, let me give you an example. I say, the sky is dash, right? So what do you think? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the sky is dash, right? Yeah, the sky is blue, the sky is limit, awesome, right? The sky is blue, right? So all these are different things that the sky is cloudy, the sky is colorful, the sky is beautiful, right? So this is what you get, right? So and you're able to predict these tokens, right? I would say token, because you are able to understand the context, right? And the context is you're talking about sky, you're talking about something like a present continuous, and you most probably these will be the words, right? Now there can be some sentences where there are dilemmas, right? Like you can say the word bank, right? The word bank can mean the institution bank, right? Or it can also mean like a river bank, right? More of a demographic, attribute. right? So it can either mean any of that, right? So like that, there will be words where it there is dilemma, right? And that dilemma is again solved using the context, right? So what is preceding this kind of words, what is succeeding, and that way you get a more context, right? So that's what this paper talked about, and I encourage you to all look at it, right? I think one of you already referenced it. I think it was Manjunath, right? So Manjunath was talking about attention is all you need. So again, read through that paper. It will definitely pique your interest. And so here, what they talked about is, all about language comprehension, right? And using language comprehension, right, to be able to derive context, right? And when we derive context, there will be some key phrases where you have to give more attention to the model, right? So the model can gain more attention, and that's what the paper was all about, right? So the reason I'm talking about this is, this became the basis for the innovation which was transformers, which still is like a gold standard, right? So it's still state of art. By the way, transformers are state of art models, right? So the transformers are very simple things, right? So there is an encoder, and then there is a decoder, right? And then there is the output, right? So you have an input and you have an output, right? So very simple, and this makes it a transformer, right? And when you give an input, what is this input? That input is the text I was talking about. Like for example, the sky is, right? If I go back to this, now you're giving the sky is dash and you're expecting the model, the transformer, to fill up this blank, right? So what transformer does, first thing is it does tokenization, right? By tokenization, the model actually breaks this sentence into smaller tokens, right? It can break it, based on the number of words, based on some characters, right? There is a very popular tokenization technique called subword tokenization, right, which most of the models use. So it's going to tokenize this, right, and then it will vectorize this. You all know. Models can only deal with numbers, right? So each of the token is given a numerical embedding, right? Is given a numerical attribute, right? And the third process is embeddings, right? Embeddings is where it will apply some sort of contextual information, right? So it will say the is probably not adding too much value, right? Sky is adding a lot of value here, right? And is important because we are talking about present tense, right? So it might give a much lower embedding score, right, for the, but it will give very good score for very high score for sky and ease, right? And that is what embedding does, right? So once it does that, it will apply some attention mechanism, right? So you apply attention mechanism, and finally it will do what is called as prediction, right? Token prediction. In token prediction, it has to predict this, right? And Manjunath already called out, it uses multiple prediction techniques, right? And most commonly used is probabilistic token prediction, right? So it will sample some of the tokens, right? And give probability that what might uh, best fit into this sentence. Like for example, you give so many different options like blue, sky is high, colorful, beautiful, right? So blue might be like a 90%, right? High might be like an 80%, right? Colorful might be maybe 62%, right? And likewise, it will give a lot of tokens, right, with their probabilities, right? Now you as an interface, right, as a client on top of this, right, can sample this, right? So maybe based on the most probability, the highest probability, right? So if you go for the highest probability, you will choose blue and you will give out the answer as blue, right? You might say, I want to be more creative, right? I don't want to always give blue, right? Because the model will give blue always highest priority. But if I do that, I will be very deterministic, right? So I want to be more creative. You can choose to sample this, right? So maybe randomly sample one of this, right? And maybe first time you give high and second time you give colorful. So you can choose, right, the way you want to sample your responses, right? So that's how transformers work, right? Now, I was telling this input is a text, right? And based on which the model is giving an output. And this text, when we scale this transformer out into a large language model, right? This input text is your prompt, right? And output is the task that you're trying to do, right? Using the large language model, right? Like for example, you're telling you are running a marketing campaign, right? For a large, let's say, manufacturing, or let's say a builder, right? You're trying to do a marketing for a very reputed builder, right? And you want to start a marketing campaign, right? And you're asking LLM, give me the plan, right? Project plan, give me the resources, right? And give me the, let's say, breakdown, right? Of everything that you need to do to run this marketing campaign, right? Now, so if you can carefully craft this out, right? Telling LLM what persona you have to do, how the marketing, campaign format should be given out, right? How detailed you want it to be, right? So if you carefully plan, craft it, there is a good chance that you will get what you're looking for from the output of LLM, right? Now, rather than going and integrating that to a source, right? Which is probably having more information, you can do that as well using carefully prompted crafted prompts, right? And that's what we will be looking at in the rest of the session, right? So I'll put this back into presentation mode. And you know, here we are just defining what is prompt engineering. Quick recall: prompt engineering is the art and science, right? So it's not just very random. It's not very ad hoc. Stuff that you put, right? So there's an art and science to it, right? You craft effective inputs for AI language model to be able to generate desired output, right? So it involves designing, refining, and optimizing the text that you give, right, to the CI systems so that it can produce accurate, relevant, and contextually appropriate responses, right? And why it matters? Because it enhances the quality. It improves the performance. It enables context aware. It maximizes the potential of the model, and more importantly, you're able to very simplistically, and very with a simple architecture, you're able to derive the most out of the language model. So we talk about what are the good components or the key components of a good prompt, right? So instruction clarity should be there, right? It should tell very clearly what the model should do. There should be some context or background, and it is always good to provide some context, right? So I was talking about marketing campaign. You can tell about this is for a real estate firm, this is for a builder, who is established, who has done very successful projects, and we are trying to launch this campaign for this city and for which time in the year, right? And as much context and background info you can provide, the better the results will be, right? You can also give any constraints or format requirement, right? Do you want in bullet points? You want in maximum 150 words? You want in fewer words? You want very detailed, right? Very elaborate. You want diagrams? You want pictures? Right? So ensure that you give the format requirements. And then what can help the prompt is a few examples, right? So you can tell that, this is in the past, this was the the marketing campaign we ran, and it was very successful, but we had challenges with this, right? With in this part, we had issues dealing with this part, right? And now we are trying to do this. So now the LLM will try to give you and recommend you ways that you can overcome those challenges. And also you can more often than not, it is helpful for the LLM if you can provide the persona, right? So act as a chief marketing officer, right, of a certain firm. Act as a customer support executive, right? Act as a architect, right? Act as a Python expert, right, if you are a developer. So you can ask the LLM to assume a role or a persona. Right, so this will, if you include all of this, most probably you will be already be having a good prompt, right? But there are certain nuances, certain small things that you can keep in mind and do it more, what you can say, organized way. So, that way you get better prompts, right? Better tasks. So let's look at those, right? So there are different types of prompting. So the first type of prompting is zero shot prompting. Right? So this is a technique that leverages LLM's pre-existing knowledge. It's very similar to auto prompting, right? They claim that GPT 4.5 does auto prompting, means with very few lines, very few descriptions, with very minimal context, it can understand many more things. That's what they claim. That's what OpenAI claims, right? This is very close to that, irrespective of what the underlying LLM is. You're putting a lot of onus on the LLM's knowledge, right? And you're not providing any specific examples, right, in this approach. And you're only relying on models' general language understanding and how it follows your instructions, right? An example could be you as a user may give a prompt to say, hey, classify this text, blah, 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 right? And the AI model will look at it and, sorry, the AI model will look at it and say, hey, this is neutral, right? It may be right, it may not be right, but model is relying on its own pre-training and pre-existing knowledge to perform this task, right? And another example could be translate the following English sentence to French. The cat is sleeping on the windowsill, right? And it has um, done the language translation. So from some very straightforward answers like this, right? For straightforward task, you are okay to do a zero shot prompting, right? So I mean, it doesn't make sense that you give two, three English to French translations, and if you are able to translate, why would you ask an LLM to do that, right? So these are very straightforward, and we know that the LLMs can do a good job, and we know that they have already been trained on these stuff, summarizing and question answering and all that. Many times, there is a problem with LLMs. They give out answers, right? And it's very plausible and it seem factual, but it will actually be incorrect, right? So what do you call the term, folks? What do you call the term where LLM spits out some information? It's so plausible and so factual that it sounds, but in fact it is having a lot of it's not a fact, right? Yeah, Manjunath says, is it hallucination? And yes, it is, right? So we are talking about LLM hallucinating, right? So many times LLM hallucinate, and I will also tell you the prompting technique you can use to avoid getting into hallucination, right? Avoid LLMs to do any hallucination, right? So I will talk about that. But I think zero shot prompting, very straightforward. It's whenever you need straightforward task to be done, just give the prompt. There is no examples needed, no context needed, very less background needed. Just straightforward way of telling what the LLM should do, and it will most probably do that for you, right? So that was zero shot prompting. So the next type of prompting is few shot prompting, where you're providing few examples, right? Small number of examples, typically in between 1 to 10, right? Within the prompt, right? And you're guiding the model's understanding of the task, right? And this will help you improve the performance on some of the nuanced task, right? The benefit is going to be better guidance that you're giving for specific task. There is going to be improved accuracy, consistency, the controls. It you can control output format and the styling, right? And it's very ideal for nuanced task, right? Let's see some examples, right? So we are doing sentiment analysis. We are telling classify the sentiment as positive, negative, or neutral. This movie is was absolutely terrible, and I say that it's negative. The restaurant's ambience was nice, but the food was mediocre, so that is neutral. And I love this new smartphone. It's fast and has a great camera, and that's positive. And with these examples, now classify the concert was okay, but the sound quality could have been better, right? And the output says neutral, right? So, had we not given any examples, it might have randomly chosen one of the sentiment. It might only have done like a positive and negative, right? They may not have been a neutral. It might say, it might have given, maybe a negative in this case, right? But because of the examples that we gave, it is, sticking to the way we want to classify such statements. There's another example. Transform the following sentence into a more formal style. Hey, what's up? Good day. How are you doing? Right? That's the way to do. And that movie was awesome. The film was exceptionally enjoyable. Now I'm telling transform. I'm going to grab some grub. Right? So for that, now it's giving a more appropriate. So probably it would have done, but you don't want to leave it to the pre-trained knowledge of the LLM, right? So you want to control the output. You want some control on the format and the styling. You want more consistency in your output, and that's where you can do a few shot prompting. The next type of prompting is a chain of thought prompting, right? So this is very very dear to some of my friends who have very logical way of thinking, right? And I'll tell you why, right? So the chain of thought prompting technique will encourage the model to break down the complex problem, right? So here you are not just relying on the model's pre-trained knowledge to give you the output. You're telling, break me down how you gave me the output, right? You're asking the model to break that task into a series of smaller steps, intermediate steps, just like how we humans simulate reasoning, right? So this technique is very effective when you want multi-step reasoning and calculations, right? And the pros of or the advantages of doing this, you can very get very good multi-step reasoning, and it's very effective for math and logical tasks. It definitely simulates human problem solving, but sometimes it can be verbose, right? Even for simple tasks, it's trying to break down, and it can look very verbose, right? I'll tell you why. So one of the example I have is a math word problem, right? So I have a problem that I give it to the LLM and say, if a store has 120 apples and sells 30% of them on Monday, 25% of the remaining 20,000, 25% of the remaining on Tuesday, how many apples are left, right? So I'm giving the instructions, right? So I'm telling start with 120 apples, then calculate 30% of that, right? And then subtract 36 because those were the ones remaining after Monday. Now calculate 25% of the remaining, right? Now subtract 21 to compute how many apples were left after Tuesday, right? So what remains is now it will give a more appropriate answer, right? Had you not given, because I was telling, the the under the hood LLM is a transformer. It will try to find the embeddings of each of this. It will try to find the more contextual, significant words out of this. It will try to do that first and not really bother about the mathematical calculation, right? So because these models are very good in language comprehension, right? But you will have to teach them logic. You will have to teach them mathematics, right? So that's what we are trying to do using chain of thought prompting. Another example where we are saying if all A are B and some B are C, then some A must be C, right? So more like an associative property. So now I'm giving breakdown of how model should understand this, right? So we are telling we know that all A are B. This means every single A is also a B. We also know that some B are C. This means at least one B is also a C, right? However, we don't know if the B that are C overlap and the A that are B, right, overlap among each other. It's possible that B and our RC are completely separate from A that are B, right? So therefore, we cannot conclude that some A must be C, right? So and we are asking, we are giving the conclusion that the statement is false, and now you can look at solving many more logical reasoning questions such as this, right? So typically, what we are trying to say is that in this prompting technique, you break down the problem into smaller intermediate steps. So the model can just do those intermediate steps, and it's not randomly giving some answers, right? And you have more control on and more consistency in the output that you're getting from LLM. So the next type of prompting is role and persona prompting, right? It's a technique that will assign specific role or persona to the AI models, right? You're influencing the response style, the tone, and the perspective based on the role and persona. So you're telling you are a solution architect uh, in a technology on a let's say Forbes 500 technology company, and that way you can tailor the response style, and also there is more context appropriate output, right? So let's see some examples. So for a customer support bot, excuse me, we are saying you are a friendly customer support representative for a tech company. And the response style here will be more friendly and reassuring. It'll be step by step because it's a tech company and we expect things to be more granular and professional yet approachable language, right? Because we are saying that you're a friendly customer support. Otherwise it'll be more robotic, right? Had we not done this, the LLM would response would be more robotic. You might have seen, right? Chatbot says it's very robotic, right? um, as an educational tutor, right? So you are a patient and encouraging math tutor for a 10-year-old student, right? So this way, the we know that LLM will not, put the foot down very easily. We are telling you are a patient and encouraging math tutor, so it will be simple, it will be age appropriate, right? The responses will be encouraging and supportive, and it will, whenever it gives examples, it'll give some very enlightening examples like pizza for fractions, right? um, Here is another example where we are saying you're a whimsical children's book author writing about a brave little cloud, right? So now we are expecting the response style to be imaginative, it'll be more playful, right? It will try to be vivid in terms of imagination, and it will use some simple metaphors because we are telling it's a children's book author, right? And there is going to be some narrative structure with some moral lessons to end with, right? So with this kind of prompting, you will be able to achieve more. or influence the response style, tone, and the perspective in which you want the output, right? But let's say you're doing a very complex task, right? So where you have to combine multiple prompting techniques, right? So you'll combine, let's say, a role prompt, right? So you're telling your so and so role, right? And you are combining few shot, you are giving few examples, right? To get more context, to give more, examples. You're not just relying on models, pre-trained knowledge, right? And you're telling chain of thought, right? So you're breaking down the complex problem for the model, and you're doing iterative refinement. I think that's something we didn't talk about, right? Iterative refinement is where, more often than not, the first response of the model you always assume to be incorrect, right? So you would give a follow-up question, right? A follow-up prompt, and then you expect a more refined response, right? So in the iterative refinement, your first response is most often than not, you would assume it to be incorrect. So let's look at an example how we can go about these complex tasks. So I'm saying as a data scientist, so this is where I'm giving a role, right? And here are input output pairs. So I'm giving few examples, right? Walk through your reasoning, which is chain of thought, right? So we are telling, don't just give answer, walk through your reasoning, and then refine answer based on feedback, right? So I'm telling it it's going to be iterative. You don't expect the first time to give out everything, right? And to emphasize the synergy, what you're doing is you're combining the prompt strategies, which is more often giving better results than what you would do in isolation, right? By doing just role prompting or just chain of thought, you may probably not have got this good response. So now by combining them, you're getting better results, right? Um, and iterative refinement and multi-step prompting, right? So here's where we are combining two types of prompting. You start with a broader prompt and you observe the output and then refine them. That's called prompt tuning, all right, or iterative refinement. We can also use prompt chains, right, where you break complex tasks into sequential prompts. That's very similar to chain of thought, right? But chain of thought is where one single task you're breaking down, right? But let's say you have multiple tasks, so you can use prompt chain where each prompt is one single task, right? So you can do a prompt chaining. We are telling generate draft and then critique the draft and then refine the draft, right? Now, folks, this prompt chain is might sound, very, straightforward, but these days we are talking about agentic AI, right? So we are talking about agents doing autonomous tasks, right? Now, what are these agents? There could be an agent which always generates draft, right? Draft agent. There could be an agent which reviews your draft. There could be an agent which can refine your draft or rewrite your draft or paraphrase your draft, right? And that becomes an agentic AI workflow, right? So you can build that workflow. You might use very complex frameworks, right? All the latest agentic stack that you might use and build this. But you can also achieve that using prompt chain, right? If you are able to carefully prompt, you might get as good an output that an agentic AI workflow can, right? So that's the power of good prompts, right? So that's something, I think you know the it's the less the very less credit is given to good prompts. We feel, it's a very straightforward, and many times it's overlooked, right? So just wanted to call out how good prompt and chaining those prompts can even replace something as an agentic AI workflow, right? Great. So the next is where we talk about contextual and multi-turn prompting, right? So here we maintain a conversation state across turns, right? So we say the first turn is, let's say, you or some persona, right? And the next is, let's say, a customer support. right? So here, when we do this kind of a conversational state and keep that conversation across turns, there is more context, there is more natural language conversation that you can expect from the LLM. You can also use memory, you can use referencing previous user inputs, because all these LLMs, right? So when you bring it in, there is some sort of history that it maintains, right? So it will have history of who logged in, what is this user, where is this user from, right? And let's say the user first time asked something about unlocking the account, right? Or a locked account, unlock account, or a locked account, right? Now user is asking about opening a new account, right? So there is this context that we know that user already has an account which was locked, and the user used the bot, used the LLM to unlock it. Now the user is coming to create a new account. So now we have more context, and the LLM can recommend better options and better way of opening a new account. Right. And also it helps in tasks like dialogue systems, chatbots, and refining prior outputs, right? Because there is that referencing of memory, previous history as well. So that way there is more, dialogue like conversation. So here are some good prompts, right? So I can just say summarize this article and give the article. The output will be very generic summary. It'll most times be vague, right? But if you refine the prompt saying you are an education tech analyst, summarize this article in 3 bullet points, highlight implications for upskilling, and suggest one next step action, right? Now here you can expect the summary of the article to be more sharper, to be more targeted, and to be more actionable, right? Here's another example. You can say, write a marketing ad for our AI course, right? This sounds very naive and very generic. So you would get an output that is generic, and generic ad copy of where you find it anywhere else, right? But if you were to refine, saying you're a senior marketing strategist, right? Now that's the role you're specifying. Write a two-line ad for a generative AI targeting mid-level professionals in India, right? So you're giving a lot of context, you're giving background and emphasizing career impact. You're setting the tone, you're setting, how the output response should be, right? So now your output will be more focused, resonant, and value driven, right? So in the real world, there are so many use cases, generating block drafts, rewriting, summarization, ideation, right? And the prompt strategy could be few shot prompting style, tone setting, format instructions, right? Um, and you can see that here we have showcased a mini case where from block prompt to final draft in 3 iterations, right? So you can use prompt to generate code snippets, SQL queries, and data transformations, right? You can combine the role prompting and chain of thought for logic explanation. You can, give a prompt to write code and the comments as well, right? Here's a real world application customer support and chatbot. You can build conversational agents via multi-turn prompts, right? Like I was saying, you don't need an agentic AI. With good prompts, you can achieve as good as a conversational agent. You can use context memory, you can use fallback prompts, right? And also this is where you can do a data analysis and insight. You're giving some data and you're telling analyze your charts, analyze them, and explain the trends in the data, right? So you can give more instructions, you can give examples to guide the output format, and that way it will give you some analysis which will, and it can produce a 3 bullet insight and one recommended action, right? Some of the pitfalls, don't keep your prompts too long, right? Because there will be token limits, right? There's something called window size. I want you to remember. Window size of a prompt or of a LLM is basically your input prompt, right? Token size plus your output prompt, right? And sometimes there will also be some system prompts as well, right? Which you cannot see. So all these included will be the window size, and it's always fixed, right? I think in case of OpenAI free tier, right? Your input prompt is 256 tokens, right? I think now they have increased to 1024. If I'm not wrong, 1024 is the window size, right? Now, if you give beyond that, if you give too long prompt, right, your output will be impacted, right? So keep that as short as you can, and don't have make it overly vague, right? Don't make it ambiguous, right? Even the output will be ambiguous. And try, if you're not iterating, if you're thinking one prompt I will get the response, then you're wrong, right? So you have to always iterate and refine it. And you cannot ignore model biases. You cannot ignore hallucination risk. You should always expect that the model is throwing some biased output by some hallucinated task, right? So always keep that in mind. So these are some of the strategies. I'll just let you, scan through this. You use structured prompts and iterate and refine wherever possible, right? So again, we are almost at time, but hopefully this was helpful. So the point we are trying to say is, these are very complex topics, right? So these are uh, topics where you need to know some sort of supervised learning, right? You need to know what is unsupervised learning, right? Now, I didn't touch upon some of the techniques like RLHF, right, which is reinforcement learning with human feedback, and that's one of the most important step when you are fine tuning, your model. There's something called supervised fine tuning that you do on the model, right? There's something called PPO, proximal policy optimizer, that you apply on your LLM, right? So all these are concepts, and it requires structured learning, folks, right? So all these are, and there is of course recommendation systems. There is deep learning, right, where you understand what are neural networks, what is a fully connected neural network, and then that transitions into what is a transformer, right? And what is a state of art transformer you can learn. And all these techniques need structured learning, right? So that's where you have great learning, a tech company which has been delivering professional and higher education. It's the best in class. There are so many million learners who have been empowered by courses offered by Great Learning. There are more than 15,000 career transitions, and if you are looking for one, then there is a program called AI for Leaders, right? So this is very well suited for working professionals who don't have to leave their job. You can pursue this course during your weekends. The course content is tailored so that you can start from scratch. You don't need a programming background, right? So if that is stopping you, you don't have to worry. You don't need any technology background. Everything will be taught as part of the first few weeks of boot camp, right? So you'll be brought up to speed, and you will gain so much experience as part of this course, right? And some of the courses are here, right? Understanding AI through data. There will be one project, one case study, and it will last for 2 weeks, right? Followed by a boot camp. And you will be visualizing data. You will be looking at, some of the, what is the data? What is statistical, summary of a data, right? And you will be building your own project in the first 2 weeks. Right. And then we move on to supervised learning, where you have a project, there'll be 5 case studies, and this will be covered for 3 weeks. And then you have neural networks, unsupervised learning, right? And then we go on to talk about Gen AI for natural language workflows, right? So very important to understand large language models, natural languages, right? And building a project and case studies using that, right? And all these involves experiential learning, a capstone project, and you'll be building Chat GPT, using Chat GPT and applications on top of it, right? And the faculty who has tailored this program for you are some of the well knowns in the academic world, right? So you definitely, you might have heard these names if you are trying to pursue AML academically. And you will be looking at EDA visualizations. You'll be building projects on that. You'll be doing web scraping, sentiment. So basically, a very full stack course, right? And you will be positioned in a very experienced level by the end of this course, right? And if you're interested, please take a screenshot of this and do contact the program office. And Lakshana has kindly shared a Google form link on the chat. Right, please take that Google form link, copy the link, right? Because as soon as we end this meeting, the Zoom chat will go away, right? So take a click on the link and bookmark it or fill that right away, just hardly one or two fields, just from a feedback perspective. And if you want to pursue this forward, you can indicate that on the form and we'll be able to help you, right? Otherwise, this is the contact. Take a screenshot of this, and this is no more a hype, folks. Like everyone is getting onto it. This was like how internet was, during the 90s. Now is the AML era. Everyone, is trying to adopt. So we don't want to be left out, right? So you as leaders should be able to guide and hire the right people, right? So this course will definitely help you on that aspect. So with that, I will stop sharing, and I had a wonderful time talking about prompt engineering. And hopefully this was helpful to all of you, right? Um, Please do let us know, and thank you so much for your time. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.